Forget T-Rex. Forget Megalodon. The most efficient killer in prehistoric history hunted in total darkness in a world without light. It didn't need eyes to find you. It didn't need claws to catch you. It saw with sound and killed with pressure. This wasn't some tiny bat or a friendly dolphin. This was an 18-meter-long evolutionary nightmare with a head like a bioweapon and a body that breaks all the rules. The truth of how this monster weaponized sound is more horrifying than any fiction, and we have the fossils to prove it. You see this jaw? Lined with a nightmare of interlocking slicing and crushing teeth? Terrifying, right? Well, forget the teeth. They aren't even the top 5 scariest things about this head. The real weapon, the true horror, was its forehead. The entire front of this creature's face was a sophisticated bio-sonar cannon. To understand the weapon, you have to understand the ear. The ancestors of whales, like Basilosaurus, were land animals. They heard like us. But when you stick a land animal's head underwater, everything becomes a muffled, confusing mess. Sound comes from everywhere at once. So as whales evolved, their ear bones, the auditory bulla, detached from the skull. They became acoustically isolated, floating in a sea of specialized fats. Basilosaurus took this to the extreme. That giant, hollow lower jaw wasn't just for biting. It was a receiver, filled with a long, fat pad that funneled sound directly into its isolated inner ears. And the forehead? That bulbous snout housed a massive fatty organ we call a melon, the same structure dolphins use to focus sound waves into a tight beam. It would generate a high-frequency click, focus it with the melon, and then listen for the echo through its jaw. This isn't just hearing. This is active acoustic imaging. It was painting a high-definition picture of a black world using sound. This is a creature that could tell the difference between a rock and a fish from 100 meters away in absolute darkness, just by the texture of the echo. It's like a submarine that doesn't just get a simple ping back. It gets a full sensory report. Distance, speed, density, texture, and maybe even your heart rate. It wasn't just locating you in the dark. It was intimately, disgustingly knowing you with sound waves. It could probably see the bones inside your body before it even decided to bite. But building a system this powerful just for navigation seems like overkill. Nature doesn't build a death ray just to see where it's going, which raises a much darker question. What if the sound wasn't just for finding its prey? The shocking claim that sophisticated sonar wasn't just a map, it was a loaded gun. Basilosaurus didn't just find its terrified prey in the dark. It is entirely possible it executed them with a focused blast of pure sound. We don't have a fossilized sound wave, obviously, but we have a powerful modern analog and a mountain of circumstantial evidence. Scientists have long hypothesized that toothed whales, like sperm whales, can use intense blasts of focused sound to stun or disorient their prey. It's called the acoustic stunning hypothesis. While still debated, the physics are sound. A powerful enough pressure wave can cause massive trauma to air-filled spaces like lungs and sinus cavities, or even just overwhelm a nervous system. Now look back at Basilosaurus. Its skull was perfectly engineered to support a colossal melon, far larger relative to its size than many modern whales. It had all the equipment to turn its forehead into a biological cannon, and its primary prey was other, smaller whales like Megalodon creatures, with complex nervous systems and sensitive ears ripe for scrambling. Stop thinking of it as a click. This is a sonic battering ram. It's a biological flashbang grenade thrown in a dark, silent room. Imagine you're a Dorude, swimming through the abyss. There's no warning, no roar, just a sudden, violent crack inside your own skull. A bolt of pure pressure scrambles your brain, paralyzes your fins. Your equilibrium is gone. You don't know which way is up. You're a floppy, convulsing sack of meat, completely helpless. And only then, after you've been neurologically tenderized, does this 60-foot serpent ghost out of the blackness to leisurely hook you with its teeth. It's the apex of efficient hunting. The prey is incapacitated before the fight even begins. So we have a monster that sees with sound and kills with pressure. A hyper-specialized serpentine killer. But its head is only half of the story. Because when we look at the rest of its body, we don't find a perfect killing machine. We find an evolutionary glitch, a biological horror show that asks more questions than it answers. The shocking claim, this 60-foot-long, sonar-guided sea monster had legs, complete with knees, ankles, and little articulated toes. And they were utterly, comically, terrifyingly useless. At least for walking. For decades, we only had the skulls and vertebrae. But in 1990, paleontologists found it. A complete, fully formed set of hind legs attached to a Basilosaurus skeleton. They are unmistakably legs, but they are absurdly small, less than half a meter long on an 18-meter animal. They could never have supported its weight on land, and their placement meant they offered zero help for swimming. They are the definition of a vestigial structure, a ghost of a bygone era, a faint evolutionary echo of the creature's distant past as a land-roaming mammal. So what were they for? The leading hypothesis is that these weren't legs anymore. They were grappling hooks, specifically claspers for mating. Let that sink in. You have this colossal, eel-like predator, a master of sonic warfare, and its method of procreation involves locking onto its partner in the crushing abyss with these creepy, disembodied little puppet legs. It's the evolutionary equivalent of finding a perfectly formed, doll-sized human arm growing out of the side of a humpback whale. It's a biological glitch, a monstrous mashup of past and present, a reminder that evolution isn't an intelligent designer. It's a deranged artist who sometimes forgets to erase his old sketches. A sonic cannon for a face, a snake's body, horrifying little sex legs. This creature seems like the undisputed king of the Eocene oceans. So if it was so perfect, so dominant, where is it? What could possibly kill a monster like this? The answer is the most boring and terrifying killer of all: change. Basilosaurus was a hyper-specialized machine built for a very specific world, the warm, shallow seas of the late Eocene. It wasn't another monster that brought it down. It was a thermostat. Around 34 million years ago, the planet began to cool rapidly in an event called the Eocene-Oligocene extinction. The oceans chilled, currents shifted, and the entire marine food web that this apex predator sat atop was thrown into chaos. Its finely tuned prey either vanished or adapted in ways it could not. This master of sonic death, this serpentine king, was too specialized. It was an evolutionary experiment that had run its course. It simply starved. It was outcompeted by the ancestors of modern, more adaptable whales and dolphins. The ultimate truth about the prehistoric monster that hunted with sound is that it was a temporary god, rendered obsolete by a cold front. Evolution is a brutal editor, and in the end, even the most terrifying monsters are just deadlines waiting to happen. Thanks for joining us in the weird corner of the fossil record. If you want to support our deep dive into evolutionary nightmares, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next descent into madness. Got a favorite vestigial body part? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see what happened after the Eocene died, check out this video right here. Now go on, get out of here.